If everybody could please join me in a big round of applause for DJ Sophia. We didn't even plan that, but I love her energy. Good evening, everyone. Happy Teacher and Nurse Appreciation Week. My nurse is back there. I know I have educators in the building. Kudos to all of you. As well as what unifies us all tonight, Happy Trauma Awareness Month. My name is Erin Mitchell, and I'm the Executive Director of Trauma Matters Delaware, and I am so happy to be celebrating our third in-person and our sixth annual Compassionate Champions Awards. I would like to offer a special thanks to Wilmington University for allowing us to use this beautiful space for our celebration this evening. Absolutely, give it up. And now I'd like to call up Dr. Ed Guthrie, who is currently the Dean of the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences at Wilmington University in Newcastle. Please welcome Dr. Guthrie, who's been here all 3 times.
It's really me to thank Erin and Trauma Matters Delaware, our partnership, and everything you do for our community and our state. Thank you, Erin. And on behalf of our president, Dr. Laverne Harmon, I want to welcome you to Wilmington University and our wonderful facility here in Dover, and we're glad to have you here tonight. But this is not about the institution. I was at Wilmington at Riverfront last night, and I had the opportunity to hear Governor Carney speak, and I saw First Lady there as well, and I want to welcome you both to our campus. And the honored guests and the winners tonight, the champions, the real champions who had the compassion to recognize trauma and the passion to execute it and serve their communities, and that's the reason they're here tonight, those champions. Dr. Harmon talked a little bit about our institution last night, so I'm not going to go into that. We're here about the ceremony and the awards. If anyone here has any questions about the institution, please feel free to contact any of us from Wilmington University. There's several here tonight. We have Dr. Berkey, who's going to talk to you a little bit about our trauma-informed initiative and the history of it. And we also have Dr. Matt Wilson, our Assistant Vice President of Academic Affairs. Dr. Davis. We have 2 Matts. Actually, we have 3. Dr. Davis is sitting right over there. Katie in the back. Katie Reed, Katie, raise your hand. Katie organizes this on our behalf, and then the unsung heroes, Nick and Josh over here from IT, that actually the reason you're listening to me. And again, on behalf of Dr. Kennedy Radijak, she was unable to make it here tonight due to an emergency, so I was the player to be named later. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Erin for the real reason we're here tonight, and that's for our ceremony and the awards and to recognize the hard work of our champions.
Thank you, Dr. Guthrie, for your partnership. And in addition to allowing us to use this beautiful space, Wilmington University and Dr. Guthrie have graciously offered to donate a free academic course for our First Chance Youth Award winner this evening. It is now my honor to introduce the first spouse, Tracey Quillen Carney, Dr. Leslie Brower, and Dr. Deb Berkey, who will take us through the journey of Delaware becoming the first state in the nation to take executive action around becoming a trauma-informed state.
Well, can you hear me on this? Yeah? Yeah, as totally thrilled as I am to see familiar faces in this room, I'm even more thrilled to see faces I don't know, people I don't know. I'm so excited. So Erin asked me to just take a couple of minutes, 5 to be exact, and I'm going to do it, to talk about the Trauma Matters Delaware, sort of the history and origins and the journey that we were on. At the time I learned about the grant that brought me here to Delaware, I was also newly acquainted with Delaware. Like a lot of people outside of the state, I had no idea where it was even. I couldn't have described it. I came for a little bit of a holiday and said, I love this place. I went home, opened up my computer, and there was the grant announcement. I thought, okay, this is meant to be. I'm applying. So that's what brought me here from my position with the Ohio Department of Mental Health, a state of about 11 million people at that time, and a town about the same size of the city that I came from at the time, the state. I came here to be the director of a SAMHSA grant, and at the time the grant was approved. It was specifically to work with the mental health and substance use agencies in the state. When I arrived, I said, hold off. We were approved to do that, but I gotta say, people with trauma do not live in mental health and addiction agencies. They live everywhere. They live in the community, they live in homeless shelters, they end up in prison, they end up encountering police. They are also in mental health and addiction agencies, but we can't limit it to that. If this is going to succeed in the state of Delaware, it's got to be broad-based, and it's got to involve multiple systems. So right away, I drew up a map, and I have to say, at the time, Rita Landgraf was my boss, the secretary of DHSS, and never hesitated, as far as I could tell, supported everything we were trying to do. And her director of DSAM, Kevin Huckshorn, Dr. Kevin Huckshorn, had come from, I believe, NASHPID, where they had been working, that's the mental health directors statewide, national organization, where they had been working on the reduction of seclusion and restraint in mental health facilities. And that was where it really first was planted in my brain that there were problems in our systems. And then a friend, a colleague in Ohio in the early childhood work said, you gotta see this, and handed me a DVD of Dr. Felitti and Anda and talking about the ACE study. And my head exploded. And I said, wait a minute, we've all been missing so much. We're missing the boat. People are coming into our systems for care, and we're not asking about it. We don't know what's going on in their life. All we are looking at are the sort of the symptoms, the presenting symptoms. So when I saw this grant announcement, I said, I want to go there. I want to do this work. There were a couple of people I just want to mention because my whole strategy, which I can't give myself any credit to say I really thought this through, but I knew that I didn't have the capabilities and the content expertise to take on the kids department and corrections and homeless services. So I said, we've got to find people in each of those systems who know that work, who know the network, who know the people that they're serving. And so we began to accumulate people, starting with just a small group of 7 of us at Brouhaha in Wilmington. And then each person kind of went out and said, wait, we should also be working with this system and that person. So we grew into what became Trauma Matters Delaware. And I just want to go ahead quickly and recognize some of these people. Tara Andrews, who I don't think is in the room. Tara ran the grant basically for a year before I came. They weren't able to find a project director, and is just a dear friend at this point. Dr. Eileen Fink, I don't think Eileen's here, was with the kids department. She's the one who picked up the phone and said, Leslie Brower, I read that you have a grant in DSAM. What are you doing around trauma? And we became buds, working very closely together because I was sort of on the adult side, she was on the child and family side, and together we worked really well. And then there was a set of people who were already working with women sex workers. Renee Beeman, who is the director of the Division of State Service Centers. Mary McDonough, magistrate in Common Pleas Court, had the human trafficking court. Basha Silverman, who was one of the original people working on that work, who's with Jewish Family Services now. And then Patricia Cobb Richardson, who is actually a dear friend now, who was competing, as it turns out, for the position of project director. And we had a little funny couple of moments about that. But she's very strongly affiliated with homeless services, particularly for young people. And then finally, the group that became core to Trauma Matters Delaware, Dr. Robin Timmie, who was at that time with the Department of Corrections, Nancy McGee, who was with the Sexual Assault Network of Delaware, Marilyn Siebold, who was with DSAM, NAMI, and Wilmington University adjunct, Marianne Kenville Moore, who was with the Domestic Violence Coalition, Kate Brookins, who is with the Department of Public Health. I'm not sure who she was working for at the time. Valerie Marek, who was Executive Director of SOAR, Survivors of Abuse and Recovery, Karen McLaughlin with the Office of Women's Health in the Public Health Division, Dr. Deb Berkey, Wilmington University, the Psychology Department, and just a totally devoted helper around finding venues for us, particularly WilmU. We couldn't have done so much as what we did without her. Dr. Julius Mullen with Children and Families First, Sharon Merriman Nye with the UD Center for Drug and Health Studies, and Noelle Duckworth with a series of places, and I believe she's actually now in DSAM, is what I heard. So the first 5 years, this was a very informal group. We just got together frequently and talked about what we could do. And eventually we figured out, look, this really should be formalized, because everybody was doing the work on top of their work, right? Top of their jobs. And I want to say now, and this isn't a throwaway in any way, not the least is to mention Governor Carney and First Lady Tracey Carney, Quillen Carney, because really, I had no idea the kind of support I could expect from a governor and first lady. Very different roles, very different substance. But when I first started hearing the governor talk about trauma and talk about cabinet council responsibilities, I thought, whoa, we're not in Kansas anymore. We're in Delaware. This is a different focus. And so I have to acknowledge both of them. And with Tracey, I have to say, Tracey, I couldn't believe when I read that you're working with Pathways to Resilience Initiative.
I know.
Sort of a little inside joke here, but if you read her, some of what she's written online, you'll see why. It was a hard sell initially, but eventually the work around trauma and Trauma Matter Delaware became really Pathways to Resistance for people who have suffered. So, thank you very much.
You're supposed to stay.
We have rules.
That's all.
Thank you, Leslie, for sharing that. It was interesting to hear. I was not part of that very first TMD grouping that got together. But in 2015, 9 years ago, Marilyn Siebold, one of our adjunct faculty, who was one of that original group, came to my department or my group and said, hey, there's this thing going on out in the community that is useful, could be useful for our students to know, the undergraduate psychology majors. And she pitched it to myself, Dr. Rebecca Gabor, Dr. Kelly Cheeseman, and we were like, sounds kind of interesting. Let's look into it. So in 2015, we held a focus group with actually a number of the people that Leslie mentioned. Leslie herself, Robin Timmie, Kate Brookins, Vanessa Benefield, Janet Tillman, and Eileen Fink. And I still have that recording saved in an MP3 file on my computer. In 2015, it was that important. Believe it or not, we did about an hour and a half focus group with them. My team and I walked out of that room at Springer Building on the DHSS campus and created the curriculum for an undergraduate certificate in the parking lot. It was that influential. It was crazy. We stood there and we said, well, if we do these 3 courses based on what they just said, that's a great core. And so in 2016, we brought it to fruition, and we've had our undergraduate certificate in trauma-informed approaches. Since 2016, it's embedded in multiple degrees, including our undergraduate psychology degree, our early childhood education degree, and our undergraduate organizational leadership degree. So we've intentionally embedded coursework in specific degrees as well as across the university. Sure. Fast forward to 2016, where I also joined the TMD steering group that Leslie talked about, and thought, you know what, though? Not just undergrads need to know this information, but our graduate students do as well. So I got a little busy in the interim creating a master's degree and a doctoral degree, but in 2019, with feedback from some of the best minds in the world as well, Terry Lawler, Darrell Green, Pete Hall, Wendy Turner, we created the curriculum for our graduate trauma cert, and we launched that in 2019. So we've had some really cool workforce development opportunities for our students here at Wilmington University. In the interim, also, we recognize that the workforce outside of academia also could use could use support from us, and so we worked with DHSS. Director Renee Beeman, who was with State Service Centers, as Leslie mentioned, came to us and said, hey, we'd like to do some training for 3 divisions. We have one of our initial champions that we trained with the divisions, Tanya, in the back, one of our initial champions at DHSS, and now she's championing the efforts at DHSS along with some of the other directors still there. We trained about 1,000 employees, right, Tanya, at DHSS in trauma-informed approaches. We went on to train employees at Department of Labor in 2020, which, as you know, was a very unique year. We began the training with them in February of 2020 in person. Little thing happened in March. Governor may remember the 15th. It was kind of significant because that's we shut down Delaware in March 15th, and so we pivoted to doing online training, and we unintentionally created an atmosphere where we could track learning of content both online and in person and do some comparisons and realize that both were actually pretty, lost the word. They were good ways to deliver content, let's put it that way. They worked very well. And so we've done a lot of trainings both in person and online since then. Director Renee Beeman also realized that the model that we use here in Delaware, the Delaware Developmental Framework, is geared around organizational change, and there is less of an emphasis on individuals, particularly at the upper levels. And so she asked my team and I to create a framework for individual change across the 4 levels. We did that in 2018, 2019. Expanded it to use in higher ed in 2022, and did a white paper in 2023. That wasn't all. We also did training for internal staff here at WilMU. We've trained trauma champions here, modeled after what we did at DHSS because they were such a good crew. And we've been working with BB Healthcare for the last 4 years, as well as other institutions across the state. What's next for WilMU in this journey? We're going to continue our internal journey. As you may know, Dr. Harmon, our president, is very supportive of these efforts. We're also launching our professional and continuing education developmental coursework. In June, there will be a 3-course series on trauma-informed approaches, trauma and leadership, trauma-informed organizations. In July, we'll launch a 28-hour training in trust-based relational intervention that's going to be held face-to-face at our Brandywine campus. So you'll see more information about that soon in our publicity. But the future is bright, obviously, with all these wonderful people here, with all this amazing energy around this movement. And our vision at WilMU is, and it may sound familiar, Erin, for all to feel safe, to grow beyond adversity, and to thrive. Thank you.
I'm accustomed at this point to being the speaker who knows the least. I give you the experts, I give you the advocate. There is a significant difference. I'll explain Leslie's joke. It took me a long time to warm up to the word resilience because it sounded to me like pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And when I had this debate with the national leaders of Pathways to Resilience, I said we have to frame it so that resilience is collective responsibility. to set up the conditions in which people can grow beyond adversity. So that's where I fought against resilience for a long time, but I got there eventually. So you've heard a lot of time, effort, and expertise went into laying the foundation for Delaware to become a trauma-informed state. When John was first elected governor, I had the luxury of spending a year just listening and learning from people like Leslie and Deb, and many of you, and thanks to Casey Family Programs, leaders in other states as well. One of the key lessons I learned that year is that collaboration is the name of the game. As we have said and heard before, in working to address foundational challenges, where each adversity deepens all of the others in a geometric and often generational erosion of opportunity, efforts to alleviate and prevent those challenges must also be interconnected and mutually reinforcing. Certainly that has to be the approach of any effective effort to promote better awareness of the costs of unaddressed trauma and more effective prevention and early intervention strategies. So we brought together people who know a lot and care a lot and started to build a statewide coalition based on so much good work that had gone before that you've heard about. These are efforts that were well underway before John and I showed up. Now, I am usually the Secretary of Humility in the office of the governor, but there is no doubt that his commitment to this work, culminating in Executive Order 24 in October 2018, was the rocket fuel that gave this movement its momentum. I won't go into all the details of the many, many meetings, the development of the blueprint, and the countless work and volunteer hours that were invested after and before the executive order, with help from our friends at Social Contract. I do want to note that how our statewide coalition, which evolved into TMD as a nonprofit, how we cemented those early partnerships by working together on a logo and then a website with the wonderful team at First Ascent, represented tonight by Nick, and led by its president and current TMD board member, John Himmicks. John can't be here, so let's embarrass him in absentia by quoting him. This is John. Trauma Matters Delaware is an organization formed to tackle making Delaware a trauma-informed state. We were contracted to build a Delaware-centric identity that wasn't cliche or over the top, and they did just that. I hope that by now the logo has become familiar. You see it there on our pins. Featuring sweet goldenrod, our Delaware state herb. Some of you may not know we have a state herb. We do. Another fun fact, when we stopped using British tea here in the colonies back in the 1760s, we started making tea out of sweet goldenrod and called it Liberty tea. More to the point, both in its Latin name, which I will not try to pronounce, John can pronounce it, and in its traditional uses. Sweet goldenrod is associated with health, healing, with making whole, and with encouragement and growth. Indeed, a perfect fit with TMD's mission and vision, which is, Deb kind of alluded to it, Trauma Matters Delaware serves as a hub in advancing the collective effort to prevent and heal trauma. Our vision is that in Delaware, all people can feel safe, grow beyond adversity, and thrive. Back in May of 2019, we had our first Trauma Awareness Month Summit. At that time, I had the privilege of presenting a couple of different categories of awards, one of which honored our founders. This was an award I made up. I picked who got it, and it's never going to be given again. It was fun. So we did that, and we also did our first annual Compassionate Champion Awards. As we celebrate our fifth, is this our fifth? Sixth Trauma Awareness Month Awards event, it seems appropriate to applaud those founders again. Like Leslie and Deb, I'm on a bit of a thank you tour. These are people who recognize the significance of the trauma stuff early, who led the work early, especially in regard to childhood trauma for me, who helped me learn just enough to cause trouble, and who came to all those meetings and stayed involved through the evolution of TMD. Not the only, but certainly among the most essential original champions, recipients of the First Chance Foundation Awards in Trauma-Informed Care. On this anniversary, we honor them again. Deb Berkey, Leslie Brower, Casey Family Programs, Children and Families First, the Compassionate Schools Learning Collaborative, and Compassionate Connections Partnership. Eileen Fink, Darrell Green, Eliza Hurst, Rita Landgraf, Terry Lawler, Jackie Mehta, Malik Muhammad, Lee Pachter, Stanton Middle School, Deb Stevens, and Jim Walsh. We've added names to that list since. You've heard Renee Beeman mentioned a couple of times, Julius Mullen mentioned a couple of times, many of the other current leadership of TMD, plus Alana Berry, Megan Wallace, Megan Walls, and more, and all of the Compassionate Champion Award recipients we've honored through the years and will honor tonight. To all of you, a very simple message from John and me. Thank you.
I kept you up here together to keep you safe and create a trauma-informed environment. But seriously, thank you, Tracey, Leslie, and Deb, for sharing your experiences on the journey of trauma in Delaware. Your dedication, expertise have been instrumental in advancing this work in our state. As we reflect on the progress we've made, let us also remember that there is so much work still to be done. Together, we can continue to create a trauma-informed Delaware where all individuals have the opportunity to feel safe and thrive. Boy, if that has not been used tonight. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank all of those who have contributed to this effort, including the many professionals, advocates, and community members who have worked tirelessly to promote this work. Once again, thank you for sharing your knowledge and experiences with us. I would now like to introduce our musical guest, Benjamin Wagner. Benjamin is a journalist, filmmaker, singer-songwriter, and founder of Essential Industries, a Wilmington-based consulting firm specializing in individual and organizational strategy and transformation. Prior to founding Essential in 2021, he spent 7 years helping launch Facebook's journalism project globally, and before that, 18 years at MTV News. In 2013, he released his award-winning PBS film, Mr. Rogers and Me, and is currently previewing his follow-up, Friends and Neighbors, which I had the privilege to see last week as he premiered it, that follows his quest to look for the helpers, healing our anxious and uncertain neighborhoods, including one and only Alana Berry. I don't know if she's here tonight. Benjamin keynotes and facilitates workshops about the physiological impact of adverse stress and the practice of cultivating resilience, a word that Tracey had a problem with. A lifelong musician, Benjamin released his 10th studio album, Constellations, in 2023, and is going to share a story and song connected with our work here tonight. Give it up, Benjamin Wagner.
Nice, quiet room. Thank you, Aaron. So before I sing, I'd like to talk for 3 or so minutes about time, mile markers, and rhinestones. In the summer of 2019, I moved from New York City to Delaware with my wife, a Greenville native, and my 2 daughters. I continued commuting to New York City and traveling to Singapore, Sydney, Jakarta, Manila, Brussels, Paris, and beyond for my job at Facebook. In spring of 2019, COVID stopped us all in our tracks. Through the depths of that pandemic isolation, I could hide my anxiety, depression, and addiction from my family, but I couldn't hide it from myself. In spring of 2021, I left Facebook, and in my questing to figure out why I was hurting so badly and coping so poorly, a friend mentioned trauma. Trauma? Me? I began Googling and found Trauma Matters Delaware. I registered for a virtual conference and lurked at the edges, expecting a non-academic or a policy person like myself to be asked to leave. Instead, I was invited in. That fall, I traveled to Muscle Shoals, Alabama to record what would be my 10th studio album. I stopped in Nashville, Tennessee on my way down, and in a moment of what my wife would call irrational exuberance, was fitted by legendary tailor Manuel Cuevas for this nudie suit. It is the costume of choice for musicians from Johnny Cash and Graham Parsons to U2's The Edge and REM's Mike Mills. I told Manuel two things. I said I wanted vines to sort of suggest growth, and rhinestone stars because, well, I wasn't really sure why. But I promised myself I wouldn't wear it until I got my act together. That fall, I was diagnosed with PTSD from capital and lowercase t traumas experienced decades prior, and amplified by that 24/7 go, go, go career. Trauma. Me. And I immediately saw trauma's impact all around me. Inspired by my hero, Fred Rogers, I set out to make a film about the helpers addressing the needs of our anxious and uncertain communities. In the summer of 2022, I interviewed Alana Berry in the governor's office, well, next to your office. The first thing she said to me is, everyone experiences trauma. And I knew I was onto somebody and that I'd found the right people. In the fall of 2022, as Aaron mentioned, I released that album, Constellation, named for the phenomena I'd been missing for 25 years in New York City, stars in my own backyard. And I wore my nudie suit because, well, I'd gotten my act together. So last May, First Lady Tracey, Quillen, Carney, and Dr. J joined me for a special screening of my first documentary, Mr. Rogers and Me. And last week, as Aaron mentioned, I premiered my second. It's called Friends and Neighbors in Wilmington and Rehoboth, encoring Saturday and Sunday in Wilmington. Aaron was there. Alana Berry was there on screen and on the dais for a panel discussion afterwards. So, this song is called Breaking Down. It's about the earlier portion of that story. It's about the mile marker where you see a big, big challenge ahead in the distance and you find the courage to speed right up to it. And it's dedicated to y'all, the stars right here in my backyard. 1,000 points of light that connect to point the way and lend courage and guidance to our communities every day and every night. Driving south to Carolina, gonna try to settle down, put away these daily benders, put away the ways I've found. Traced the Mississippi halfway and took a left there in the hills. The highway turns to rubble, the rebels turn to pills, and they say everything's better in between. Where you're going, or and where you've been. Cracks are finally showing, it's too late to turn around. I'm 100 miles away from breaking down. Now all the way through Appalachia, the hollows thick with vines, and the old forgotten corners of this country in my mind. I found my way through all the fury, the constant raging thrills, the speed of summer lightning, the thunder in the hills. Everything's much better in between. Where you're going, where you are, and where you've been. Cracks are finally showing, it's too late to turn around. I'm 100 miles away from breaking down. There's a crossing in the distance, I can see the flashing lights. I can almost smell her perfume on a warm September night. Put my pedal to the floorboards, throw my chances to the wind, throw my arms up into heaven and to hell with where I've been. They say everything's better in between. Where you're going, where you are, and where you've been. Cracks are finally showing, it's too late to turn around. I'm 100 miles away, 100 miles away, 100 miles away from breaking down. 100 miles away, 100 miles away, 100 miles away from breaking down.
Benjamin, thank you so much for sharing your song and your story with us tonight. We will now take a brief intermission and resume our ceremony at 7:05. Please feel free to refresh your plates and your drink. Welcome back. Welcome back. Please have a seat. I hope everyone got a chance to refresh their plates. Somehow, I think it's a hole in the bottom of my cup here. But thank you again for being here this evening. I'm so excited to bring up this next presenter. This man, he already knows I'm pausing because it's a big lead up for me. Mentor, coach, boss, lots of other titles I can call this man, but I'm just going to say right here, right now, please welcome to the stage Dr. Julius Mullen on his thoughts and take on this year's Trauma Awareness Month theme, Action to Impact, the Journey of Hope continues, boss man.
What's happening? So I know she's already been recognized, but how about that DJ one more time? Yeah. Make sure you get your pictures with her. I tell you, because it's probably going to be a charge for that a little later on. So, also, I am so honored to be here with all of you. I love that particular line, first spouse, around. We are in the midst of so many people who know a lot and care a lot. So how about one more hand for all of you for being here. Erin's the real boss, so she actually wants me to read this. I guess I'll stay within the script. But shout out to Social Contract. I know Alana's not here, but she's probably listening. Hello, Alana. Shout out to our board of directors and the entire team responsible for recruiting such a bright, dynamic, charismatic, absolutely awesome executive director. Give it up for Erin Mitchell, please. Yes, absolutely. So as indicated before, Trauma Matters Delaware serves as our state's backbone organization. We're committed to collaborating to various entities to prevent and reduce trauma and foster an atmosphere of safety, trust, hope across our wonderful first state. At TMD, we strive for diversity and inclusiveness in our leadership and the principles of integrity, accountability, and cultural humility, which guides everything we do. As an organization, we recognize that self-reflection is critical and very important for our continuous learning, for our improvement as we elevate our community voices and foster a culture of resilience and healing. We are extremely grateful for the work of Governor Carney, First Spouse Quillen Carney, the Office of the Governor, the Family Services Cabinet Council, and our dedicated board of directors. Can we have, a matter of fact, can we have our board of directors, our Trauma Matters Delaware board of directors, please stand at this time. You're talking about a group of people who know a lot. I tell you, Tracey, I'm going to steal that one. Who know a lot, care a lot, and do a lot. Thank you so much to our wonderful board of directors. As a backbone organization, we have done an incredible amount of work over the last several years, raising awareness, sharing best practices, connecting resources, and so much more in partnership with our Delaware friends and some national friends as well. We've done a lot of stuff and activities and outputs and so much on the ground, but now the journey continues. The journey will continue as we deepen and continue to involve our action to a broader impact. And we're going to deepened that impact across many rooms. I'm talking about courtrooms, family rooms, classrooms, church rooms, locker rooms, and so many other rooms in our state. At this time, in terms of energy, whether it's driven from our board, whether it's driven from many of you, let's bring another type of energy in the room. On the count of three, repeat after me. 1, 2, 3. Action to impact. 1, 2, 3. And for the people in the back, 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much for your time. Back to you, Madam ED. That's right, you want me to stay up here?
Stay right here. No matter who you are, where you're from, everyone deserves an opportunity to reach their full potential. 2 years ago at this very podium, we announced we would create a Compassionate Champions Youth Award category. Named after the First Spouse's First Chance Delaware framework, the First Chance Youth Award's goal is to ensure all Delaware's youth have a first chance to succeed. Tracey, would you please come up here and join us to present this year's award? This year's winner is being nominated based on their efforts to raise awareness about childhood trauma and mental health issues, both which are truly commendable. His involvement in various initiatives demonstrates his commitment to making a positive impact in these crucial areas. By leveraging his personal stories and experiences, this year's winner has been able to effectively convey messages of hope, healing, resilience to many others. His participation in the online community forum, led by our first spouse, Carney, during the challenging times of COVID-19 pandemic highlights his dedication to supporting youth mental health. By collaborating with his peers, utilizing different platforms, our winner has been able to amplify the conversation around early adversity and its impact. Furthermore, his role in organizing and leading Delaware's first mental health summit showcases his leadership skills and advocacy for policy changes to address adverse childhood experiences. This man is only 17. He's done all this. Being featured in the documentary, What About the Kids, further amplifies this youth's voice and allows him to reach a wider audience to discuss important topics such as teen mental health, social media influences, and traumatic stress. This year's 2024 First Chance Youth Award goes to Ray John Turner. Yep. And the court. Attaboy, good job. Man up. Come on up here. You're next, boss.
All right, I just do what Aaron tell me to do. Speaking of doing what people tell me to do, I don't know what went through a few people in this room, I won't name them, who had the bright idea to at least encourage me to throw my hat in the group of people who may be interested in being the board president of Trauma Matters Delaware.
They're all the ones laughing.
I thank all of you. There were several. They ganged up on me. Congratulations again, Rajon. How about another applause for Rajon? Last year, TMD introduced the Rita Landgraf Lifetime Achievement Award. This award recognizes outstanding achievement by individuals who demonstrate their commitment to trauma-responsive actions, reducing the impacts of trauma in marginalized communities, including our black and brown brothers and sisters, individuals with disabilities, children and adults surviving sexual abuse, the homeless population, LGBTQIA, and the aging population. To help me present the Rita Landgraf Lifetime Achievement Award, please welcome Rita Landgraf. This year's award goes to an individual that has been instrumental in leading cross-section efforts to raise awareness of trauma-informed approaches within our wonderful state. An individual that has been consistent in ensuring policy, practice, and procedures implemented and executed via a trauma-sensitive lens, often reshaping language that was more inclusive, respected, and viewed the individual as a whole rather than a deficit. Our winner is a visionary leader whose pioneering efforts include a unique blend of compassionate leadership, intellectual tenacity, yes indeedy, and a deep care for all. One who has galvanized, unified, and energized others in the mission to promote wellness for anyone affected by trauma. With an optimistic spirit and positive outlook, our winner's legacy is one empowerment, empathy, and unwavering dedication to greater humanity. The 2024 Rita Landgraf Lifetime Achievement Award goes to none only than Dr. Leslie Brower.
Oh, I'm so pleased. Oh, my goodness. I only have an hour to talk to you about this.
Well, Dr. Brower, that's why we also appreciated the journey, and it was through your leadership and your encouragement, and through the grace of you, so many people have healed. In addition to that award, a small token of $1,000 was awarded annually to those who achieve this Rita Landgraf Award from a special donor. So thank you.
And I am going to donate that back to Trauma Matters Delaware.
I knew she would.
Yep, you good? We're just gonna start our awards. Thank you, Dr. J, Rita, and congratulations, Leslie. Now you know why I called you and said, "Are you coming?" I really wanted you to come. The Compassionate Champion Award categories were created to highlight individuals or teams in government, nonprofit, private organizations, first responder programs, educational institutions, healthcare professions, and other agencies that have taken steps towards providing services consistent with our trauma-informed framework. Tonight, we have come together to celebrate those champions who have worked so hard to bring awareness to our state. Champions, when your name and organization are called, please join us on stage to accept your award and take a photo with the governor and first spouse. As our winners come up, I will read a highlighted section from their nomination form. This year, we had over 30 nominations come in. So you guys truly are deserving of your award tonight. All right, first up, in the government group category, the winner is the Department of Corrections, State of Delaware. Congratulations. The Delaware Department of Corrections is the second largest executive branch and the largest law enforcement agency in the state, with over 2,500 employees. The mission of the Delaware Department of Correction is to protect the public by supervising adult offenders through safe and humane services, programs, and facilities. The DDOC remains deeply committed to responding effectively to the impact of trauma in our correctional system. That begins by building recognition that trauma affects staff and justice-involved individuals, realizing that it impacts each person in different ways, and promoting a culture that fosters safe, respectful, and trusting relationships with our staff. Please give it up one more time for our Delaware Department of Corrections. Next is our government individual category. The winner is Crystal Tickner from Department of Health and Social Services. Crystal's level of trauma awareness seems to be innate. Her ability to remain calm and instill confidence while interacting with her clients happens as soon as she introduces herself. In a world where it may seem easy to feel lost and discarded, Crystal steps in and you know your family will be okay. She truly cares about people in need, and there are so many people in need that have no way to avoid trauma. Crystal is determined to change that issue. Give it up one more time for Crystal Tickner. Next, in the Community Organizations Group category, the winner is Center for Structural Equity. The Center for Structural Equity is a nonprofit organization founded in 2020 by Daryl Wolfie Chambers. He works to achieve the mission of empowering and equipping communities to respond to structural violence and promote structural equity to address social determinants of health. The organization conducts in-depth research on structural inequities in various sectors, such as education, healthcare, and criminal justice, with a focus on how policies and institutions perpetuate these disparities. The Center for Structural Equity stands as a beacon of transformative change dedicated to addressing systemic inequities through a trauma-informed lens. Please give it up one more time for the Center of Structural Equity. Congratulations. Congratulations. You're welcome. In the Community Organizations Individual category, tonight's winner is Yolanda Montgomery from Zoe Ministries. In the nominee's words, Zoe's Ministries' unwavering commitment to providing a safe haven for these vulnerable young souls is truly commendable. In a world often marred by cruelty and indifference, Zoe Ministries shines as a beacon of hope and compassion. Their dedication to the rehabbing of girls, helping them heal from the traumatic experiences, and empowering them to reclaim their lives is nothing short of inspiring. It is heartening to witness an organization that not only recognizes the plight of young victims, but actively works towards restoring their faith in humanity. Please give it up one more time for Yolanda Montgomery and Zoe Ministries. Got our governor working tonight. Woo! I did have someone for that, I promise. In the education category, tonight's winner is Zainab Shah from the University of Delaware. Zainab is the Assistant Director of Victim Advocacy, Case Management, and Student Advocacy at the University of Delaware Student Wellness and Health Promotion. Since 2015, she has been supporting Delawareans as an advocate in a variety of ways. She revamped UD's Peer Advocates SOS program to be focused on peer education and rebranded it from sexual offense support to support of survivors. Her work is guided by the firm belief and training in trauma-informed work and practices. This isn't just her job, it's her life's work and passion. Congratulations, Zainab Shah. It's also on the screen, Governor. In the healthcare category, tonight's winner is Christiana Care Forensic Examiner Team. Christiana Care's Forensic Nurse Examiner Team was formed in 1997 with the intent to improve the medical services available to victims of sexual assault. Over the following 2.5 decades, this team has expanded its expertise, and services are now offered to victims of child maltreatment, elder abuse, domestic violence, violent crimes resulting in traumatic injuries, as well as sexual assault. This expertise includes specialized training in recognition and documentation of traumatic injuries associated with strangulation and gunshot wounds. The members of the team also frequently appear in court on behalf of their patients, testifying about the injuries that were documented and collected as evidence. It is Nurses Appreciation Week. Please give it up one more time for Christiana Care's Forensic Nurse Examiners Team. One left. I'm just having fun now. In the first responders category, the winner is the First Responder Training Program led by the Delaware Network for Excellence in Autism at the University of Delaware Center for Disability Studies. Retired Lieutenant Chuck Sawchenko, who was the parent of a child with autism and trainer with the Delaware Network for Excellence in Autism, is a first responder, or helped create the First Responder Training Program. In partnership with Alicia Fletcher, it represents a significant portion of the outreach the DNEA conducts every year. Chuck has expertise in policing, behavioral health, and crisis de-escalation. Alicia, a licensed clinical social worker, is the director of the DNEA. Together, they delivered the DNEA's First Responder Training Program to the first responders and other related groups across Delaware. To date, they have trained over 30 departments and has 10 more scheduled this year. Please give it up for the First Responder Training Program led by the DNEA at the University of Delaware Center for Disability Studies. You good? Congratulations again to all of our winners tonight. And now, since I've picked on him all evening, I'd like to introduce Governor John Carney. No, we fist bump. We fist bump. We don't shake hands. We fist bump.
Well, that was fun. I was wondering when I was going to have a role in tonight's awards presentation. I've been stressing it all week because it's been a very busy week, and I have an important memorial tomorrow out at the prison, but it just lifts me up to see all of you here. You know, I used to be, or consider myself, a hands-on public servant. I worked for other elected officials, and then in 2000, when I ran for lieutenant governor, you know, the lieutenant governor's office is not much to it. You got to do everything yourself. And then I served for 3 terms in the United States Congress, and again, you're pretty much on your own, you know, 435 folks. But when you become governor, you got to realize you can't do it all. And Tracey says, well, that's the good news, because I have to just let go and put people in the place to do the great things. And just look around this room and all the folks that made this happen. When they first came to me and said, we have to have this, we need an objective to make Delaware the first trauma-informed state. And I said, what's that? Tracey, somebody said earlier, you have a theme here. Know a lot, care a lot, do a lot. 1 out of 3 is not bad. I care a lot, I don't know a lot, And I don't do a lot. You all do the work. And that's a beautiful thing. And my role here tonight is really just to thank all of you. I think I have a proclamation, although I don't. Oh, it's down below. There it is. But really, I just want to thank you for the work that you do. And as I was sitting there listening to folks that experience trauma, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, I went through that pandemic for 3 years. Am I going to, like 5 years from now, all of a sudden wake up and be traumatized and have to wear a suit like that and sing great songs? By the way, is that a suit or what? Stand up. Let's see that suit again. That is a suit right there. I'm pretty sure I couldn't pull it off. Greg, what do you think? Do you think I can? No. Greg's saying no. And I can't tell you how proud I am about our state agencies here, particularly, if I may, the Department of Corrections, for the work that you do. Very, very difficult work with lots of people that have experienced incredible amounts of trauma in their lives and have committed crimes to end up in your care, and then to be recognized for the way you treat the folks that are under your supervision is very impressive and different than in the past. And as somebody who's responsible for that ultimately, the most traumatized day of my 7.5 years here as governor was because of an incident at James T. Vaughan Prison. One that it will never leave me, for sure, and one that we made a commitment afterwards to do things differently. And so tonight, when I presented that award to you all, it meant a lot to me, and I'm sure it meant a lot to all of you. And we have represented here from the Department of Education, and Greg Lane, who I mentioned just a minute ago. I think he's new to our cabinet, and he figured out that maybe I ought to go to all these events and show up and just show the governor that I am concerned. And he is, and he's doing a wonderful job. So my job is to put people in positions where they can do great things, and everybody in this room has done that. I could go to each of the recipients and talk about what you've done in a small state like Delaware. I've had some real experience with each of you, and I'm just so proud, and I have a heart full of gratitude tonight. So I do have a proclamation. You can't have a Trauma Awareness Month unless you proclaim it from the governor. And I'm going to read some of it. It is a proclamation in observance of Trauma Awareness Month. And it reads, whereas unaddressed trauma, especially in childhood, is associated with serious health problems, high-risk behaviors, and with poor outcomes in school, work, family, and community life. And whereas research has demonstrated even greater influence of positive experience and relationships in childhood and the effectiveness of trauma-informed prevention and early intervention strategies. And whereas the impacts of individual, family, and community adversity are greatest where there are coexisting vulnerabilities and inequities. And whereas with an understanding that every interaction makes a difference, all Delawareans can play a part in providing positive experience for our children and our neighbors. Now, therefore, we, John Carney, Governor, that's me, and Bethany Hall, Lieutenant Governor, do hereby declare May 2024 Trauma Awareness Month in the state of Delaware to engage all community members in opportunities to prevent and interrupt cycles of trauma, especially for our children. To all of you who do this work, thank you. And lastly, I want to thank Tracey for taking up this effort and for getting a handle on resilience. Somebody who is the spouse of an elected official is resilient by definition. Those of us who are out there taking the barbs and whatever, we kind of get immune to it, I think. Y'all probably would doubt that, right? Somewhere it's going to come back. But the spouses, the parents, the brothers, the sisters, the family members really take it to heart. And Tracey has been right there, and I appreciate that very much. Particularly, she puts her heart and soul into this work. And by the way, if you haven't, somebody said amen. Did somebody say amen? Did I hear it? Can I hear an amen on that? Can we have some church tonight? There we go. So I want to thank Tracey tonight as we recognize all of you. Thank you. God bless.
Can we have our Trauma Matters Delaware Board of Directors come up for our photo, please?
Come on.
Come on. We're doing good on time, everybody. I'm going to get you out of here early. I just want to say one more time, thank you for all your exceptional work in helping make Delaware a trauma-informed state and for coming out tonight. Congratulations to all of our winners, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you all. Yeah, Ben. I got you. Hello, 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 hello. You want this one? Here you go. Hello.